Special anniversary occurring this weekend as Germantown, Tennessee celebrates its 175th anniversary, and at the Germantown Depot this weekend, a special event commemorating that, as well as a local amateur radio group showing what they can do.
Something Zulu Zulu, say come back. November 8th, Zulu Zulu, come back. Ohio, Zulu. Okay, got it.
In 1841, the city of Germantown received its charter. 175 years later, the Neshoba Amateur Radio Club set up at the Germantown Depot to help promote amateur radio and to celebrate Germantown's birthday.
In the area in Memphis, Tennessee. Hope you guys have fun. Do a lot of contact. You're 5x8. 5x8.
Tell them we're special events if you want a card.
Over.
You're 5'9" over here in Germantown. Thank you for the contact. Happy Thanksgiving in 73s.
Several contacts were made while I was at the location. It's always a great time to practice amateur radio, says Fred Miller, president of the ARC.
Here at the historic Germantown Depot station. So we're combining a couple of pieces of history, and our goal is to talk to people around the country, tell them a little about Germantown and what we're doing here, and exchange a little goodwill.
CQ, N4G, Special Event Station, Germantown, Tennessee, calling CQ.
The city of Germantown has grown since the corporation in 1841 to a city of 40,000 plus, and the hobby of amateur radio wasn't around way back when, but nowadays thriving, and also a great opportunity to help your community in time of need, as well as being just an opportunity to talk to people around the world.
Well, it's got so many different aspects to it, and that's one of the things that's nice about ham radio. People can kind of focus in on areas that particularly interest them. Underlying it all is the very important element of emergency communication. When all else fails, ham radio can go through. So we'll all have an important role in that. But to get on air and talking to people, meeting people in the various parts of the country, different parts of the world, exchanging information can be really a lot of fun.
N4G, this is a special event station calling CQ.
When I was at the station this morning, there were a few contacts going on. You can have a lot of people answering at once, and that's called a pile-up, to where you have to sort them all out and have everybody wait their turn in line. And again, this is something that happens, it's a feast or famine depending on how things go. For today, for the special event, things were moving along pretty swimmingly by the time I got there, and everything just starting off pretty well early in the morning. President Fred Miller said everything was going pretty well, all things considered.
We've been doing pretty well. They tend to come in bunches, but we're doing quite well with it, and we've got a lot of newer hams getting some experience for the first time and having some fun on the air. So it's a low-pressure, fun event and designed to carry a little goodwill.
Amateur radio a little bit simpler than a lot of people take it to be. You do need a license. You just can't get a citizen band radio and start broadcasting. You do have to have a particular license. My particular license is Kilo Golf 4 Golf Kilo Echo KG4 GKE. That means I can transmit on apparatus like this and talk to other ham radio operators around the rest of the world. It's also not as expensive as you might think, so something to consider if you're looking for a hobby for yourself or maybe your kids or grandkids.
This is N4G, Special Event Station calling CQ.
The amateur radio apparatus of yesteryear, a lot of which is kept alive by ham radio operators who take very good care of their equipment, is not exactly the same as the type of equipment that you have in modern era with the advancement of the digital transistor.
In the area in Memphis, Tennessee. Hope you guys have fun. Do a lot of contact. You're 5x8. 5x8.
But whether you're in Germantown or anywhere in the world, it's a great hobby to have and a great hobby to get involved in, if not for just making neighbors and new friends. It's also great for practicing for disaster and emergency communications. You'll even let wayward meteorologists on the air. N4G calling CQ from Germantown, Tennessee. N4G calling CQ. N4G standing by. CQ. One of the really cool things about being an amateur radio operator is just the ability to throw your voice out there into the ether to see if anybody is out there listening. And for a special event station like this, getting an opportunity to participate is a very cool thing to be able to do. A lot of the time you're going to sit around and wait for a response and a reply, and unfortunately there's a lot of times where there's a lot of waiting. Special event station N4G calling CQ, 175th anniversary of the founding of Germantown, Tennessee. Special event station N4G calling CQ, CQ, CQ. And sometimes when you cast your line into the water, there's just nothing out there. Nothing but silence and a lot of static. Okay, well, I gave it a shot. A little ham radio parlance for you if you've never heard anything like this before, maybe a little bit on the confusing side what you've been hearing in there. N4G is the name of the station, the designation of the station. Mine is KG4GKE. What you're listening to in there, CQ, is ham radio short notes for Seek You, as in SEEKYOU, CQ, CQ. That's how they call for contacts out into the rest of the amateur radio community. Depending on the power and the frequency, you can talk to people around the block or around the world. And also 73, if you hear that on there a couple of times, that's sort of short notes for have a nice day, thanks for talking to me, things like that. A lot of things like that that kind of sum up a little bit more about amateur radio, that get things done a little bit easier and also a little quicker than usual communications do. And that's why it's important to know a little bit more about what amateur radio is all about and how easy it is to get involved with it.
Well, it's got so many different aspects to it, and that's one of the things that's nice about ham radio. People can kind of focus in on areas that particularly interest them. Underlying it all is the very important element of emergency communication. When all else fails, ham radio can go through. So we'll all have an important role in that. But to get on air and talking to people, meeting people in the various parts of the country, different parts of the world, exchanging information can be really a lot of fun. Working with the gear as well, doing special events like this, there are contests, there are all kinds of things that people can enjoy. It's a great fraternity of people, really, internationally, and I've been doing it for 39 years and enjoyed every one of them.
Please say again, call sign, over.
Reporting from the depot in Germantown, a happy 175th birthday, I'm meteorologist Austen Onek from the News Channel 3 Weather Center.